People, H-God, beer sports talk. For 30 years, one family name has haunted another. It's a story of defeat, a relentless obsession for revenge, passed from a father to his son. Some wars never end. They just go dormant, waiting for the next generation. For the Benns and the Eubanks, that war was fought in a boxing ring, a bitter rivalry that defined an era of British boxing and ended in an unsatisfying stalemate. For 3 decades, that wound was left open, but legacies, like grudges, are inherited. This isn't just a story about two sons following their fathers. It's about a 30-year quest for redemption that nearly collapsed into scandal and controversy. But after all the delays, the accusations, and the bad blood, the final chapter has finally been written. The war is over, and the ghost of defeat has been exorcised once and for all. To understand the obsession that drove Conor Benn, you have to rewind to November 18th, 1990. His father, Nigel Benn, the Dark Destroyer, was a vicious uppercut from Benn made Eubank bite a severe gash into his own tongue. Miraculously, he fought on. By the 9th round, it was Benn who was exhausted and overwhelmed. The referee jumped in to stop the fight, and Chris Eubank was the new champion. A bitter rivalry was born. They met again 3 years later in 1993 for a unification bout billed as Judgment Day. This time, the fight was a grueling 12-round war. When the final bell rang, the judges couldn't separate them. One scored it for Eubank, one scored it for Benn, and the other called it even. The result was a split draw, a resolution that satisfied nobody and settled nothing. Benn kept his WCB belt and Eubank his WBO title. But for Nigel Benn, the sting of that first defeat was never truly gone, and there would be no third fight. The rivalry ended, but the story was just passed down, a burden and a birthright to the next generation. Enter Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., two sons born into boxing royalty, destined to live in the shadow of their father's colossal legacies. From the moment they turned pro, the question wasn't if they would fight, but when. Fight billed as Born Rivals was finally set for October 8th, 2022. The build-up was electric, a 30-year-old rivalry reignited by two sons carrying their family names into battle. But just 3 days before the first bell, the whole thing came crashing down. News broke that Conor Benn failed a drug test. The substance was clomiphene, a female fertility drug that can also boost testosterone in men. A second failed drug test soon came to light. The Benn camp insisted on his innocence, but the British Boxing Board of Control prohibited the fight from happening. The dream showdown had turned into a nightmare. Benn, on the verge of his destiny, became a pariah. He relinquished his boxing license and got tangled into a 2-year battle to clear his name. His team initially argued that a highly evaluated consumption of eggs could be a reasonable explanation, and a claim met with wide ridicule. The WCB controversially reinstated him, but his battle with the UK anti-doping was just getting started. A provisional suspension was lifted in July 2023, only to be appealed and reinstated in May 2024. It wasn't until November 2024 that the National Anti-Doping Panel finally cleared him to fight in the UK again. stating it was not comfortably satisfied that he had initially doped. During this exile, Benn took 2 fights in the United States, winning both but looking far from the destructive force he once was. While Benn fought for his reputation, Chris Eubank Jr. moved on. After the scandal, the path to rescheduling their fight was a minefield of bad blood and negotiation. But history, it seems, has a sense of irony. The fight everyone had waited for finally happened in April 2025, and in a stunning turn of events, Chris Eubank Jr. won, defeating Benn by unanimous decision in a thrilling 12-round brawl. For Conor Benn, it was the worst possible outcome. The 30-year wait for revenge had ended in another Benn defeat. The dynasty's curse continued, but this time, the story didn't end there. A rematch was set for November 15, 2025. This would be it. One last chance, not just to beat a Eubank, but to save his own legacy from the stain of controversy and defeat. On November 15, 2025, at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the 35-year war between the Benns and Eubanks finally reached its conclusion. This time, there was no doubt. From the opening bell, Conor Benn put on the performance of his life, dominating Chris Eubank Jr. for 12 rounds. It wasn't the wild, reckless brawler of the past. This was a clinical, disciplined fighter with an answer for everything Eubank Jr. threw. Benn was relentless, punishing his rival to the body and controlling the tempo of the fight. Then, in the final minute of the final round, the moment the Benn family had waited 3 decades for arrived. A brutal combination sent Eubank Jr. crashing to the canvas. He got up only to be dropped again by a furious assault from Benn. Eubank Jr. managed to save himself and survive to the final bell, but the result was a formality. The judge scorecards were read aloud, a landslide unanimous decision. A Benn finally beat Eubank. After the fight, Benn declared the rivalry over. I feel like this is the end of the Benn-Eubank saga. Done and finished. It's over, he said, before adding a message to his doubters. Everyone's saying I can't box. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. For 30 years, the Benn dynasty was fueled by a singular obsession: revenge. That quest took Conor Benn to the brink of a legacy-defining night, only to see it collapse into a battle for his career. He endured the controversy, the public shame, and even a crushing defeat to his rival. But in the end, he found his redemption. The central question of this saga has finally been answered. A Benn has beaten a Eubank, and the victory was definitive. The controversy will always be part of the story, a permanent footnote to this generational war. But with one dominant performance, Conor Benn didn't just win a fight. He ended a dynasty's obsession and carved out a legacy all of his own. The war is over, the revenge is final, or so they say. So what do you think? After everything that happened, does Conor Benn's victory finally erase the stain of the controversy? And what is the ultimate legacy of this incredible 35-year family feud? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And for more deep dives into bigger stories in boxing and more sports, make sure you subscribe.